All right, guys. So our final topic here is going to be a bit of a spoiler warning. We're going to talk about Invincible, the animated series here on Amazon Prime Video. It's kind of a series here that I didn't knew nothing about the comics going into it. Heard a lot of good things about it, so I decided to watch it. And I said before, I think I said on stream, it actually took me like I think 3 days to even get through the first episode. But once you get to the end, like if you're not hooked after the end of that first episode, then I don't really know what to tell you. I think if you're on the fence about giving it a shot because it's like it is kind of just another superhero thing, right? Like if you're not familiar with the actual source material, it may just seem like, oh, okay, well, it's a cartoon and it's about superheroes who aren't Marvel characters and aren't this and aren't that. Like everyone's trying to like capitalize on the superhero properties right now. It could totally seem that way for the uninitiated, I suppose. Because even with me, like I said, it took me a couple days to even finish watching it just because I didn't know nothing about it. Nothing about it really until the end of the first episode really like intrigued me. It just seemed a lot kind of like par for the course. But then once the ending occurs, and I guess I did warn for spoilers here, so final warning. But at the end of that first episode, when Omni Man comes in and just kills their version of the Justice League, when you have no idea why, that doesn't get you in. I don't really know what will. So that obviously hooked me. I went through the rest of it, pretty much watched them all as they came out, and the finale just happened. And I gotta say, the last two episodes were probably my favorite two episodes of the whole series. But a lot of the characters in there, like I said it early on, like I think I told John over on Discord when I first started watching the show that I thought it was like a really good thing that they did end up killing off all those people, like the Guardians of the Globe, the initial roster of it, because the initial roster of Guardians of the Globe, which is like their Justice League, they were essentially Justice League knockoffs. Like all of them, you had your Wonder Woman kind of character, you had your Batman kind of character, you had your Superman character, you had all this, and I was just like, it was a really good and smart decision of like, Robert Kirkman, the guy who created the series and everything, and the comics and everything, to have those characters, but then kill them immediately. You know what I mean? And I think John, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that actually doesn't happen till towards the end of the series in the comics run, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like where Omni-Man actually kills the Guardians of the Globe.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of when. No, I think it happens fairly early.
Does it?
It's been a while since I've read it, but the yeah, the reveal of Omni-Man and what's going on happens fairly early. And I think the Guardians of the Globe thing happened because they do the whole setup. Yeah, it must happen early. It must happen really because you have the whole thing with them setting up the new Guardians of the Globe. So it must happen relatively early in the comics as well.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm unfamiliar with the comics, and I heard that it's very true to the comic series. I mean, like I said, with Robert Kirkman, the guy who created the series, he also created Walking Dead and all that, if the name sounds familiar. But he's like heavily involved with this show as well. So kind of like he was with Walking Dead for a long period of time. So it makes sense that it would be following the comics like fairly well at that point. So but again, it's just they because when the show opens up, you're kind of set with the expectation, and it will give you the impression of like this is just another superhero show attempt where they have all these characters that are very reminiscent of characters we already know. Because like I said, the Guardians of the Globe is pretty much the Justice League, and so I thought it was very astute to just kill him instantly, and then like you just the great part about the show, and I can't really speak for the comic though, is like the whole first season is pretty much just trying to figure out like, well, why did Omni Man kill them? Because the show follows Invincible, the guy in the yellow, and then Omni Man's his dad, and it kind of, you know, unravels from there. And like we know that that happened where he killed them all, but like you don't find out like no other characters really learn about that till the second half of the season. And then once they do, kind of all hell kind of breaks loose, and it kind of coincides exactly with once all that's done. I'm going to jump forward to the end here. With Omni Man, you learn, at least in the show, like I said, this might happen more earlier on, but in like the second, I think it was the second to last episode, you find out why it happened, and it's because like Omni Man, his race of people, his alien race of people, they're called Viltrumites, and they essentially what they do is they're one of them. They're like a conquering. They're a race kind of akin to the Kryptonians, where like they started spanning out the globe to, like, conquer things, but, like, not as, like, evil as the Kryptonians did. The Kryptonians, at least for the most part, even in, like, Man of Steel mythology, they didn't go out and, like, conquer current civilizations, but they tried to expand their, have their race exist on different planets in the galaxy, you know what I mean? Not necessarily take over and everything, but that's exactly what the Viltrumites do. They essentially send off a Viltrumite to all these planets to overthrow them and have them pretty much kneel to the Viltrumite Empire, just so they can further expand the Viltrumite Empire. So Omni Man explains even like on the home world of Viltrumite on Viltrum, they weeded out all the weak. So there was like this huge civil war on Viltrum where they all can like kill each other. So the only people that remained were the strongest of like their race. And then from there, they started their galactic conquest out. So like they pretty much weeded out all the weaklings, and they have all those pretty much like General Zod wanted to do for the most part. So Omni Man and the Viltrumites pretty much have the powers of Superman, but they don't have heat vision. And it's not because of the yellow sun or anything like that. He's just super strong. He can fly super fast, but he just is that way. He can go to any solar system without a yellow sun and do it. And it's really cool when you learn all that stuff, in my opinion, because it sets it again, something that sets it apart from your classic, you know, superhero tropes. Like, they could have just done like, oh, here's the Superman character, here it is. But no, they gave him like this backstory to where like they're all sent out, like they send the Viltrumite out to these planets to essentially conquer them. And if they don't like if in this instance, if humanity didn't kneel to the Viltrumite Empire and join them, then he'll just kill them all. And the show is very graphic. There's a lot of brutal, gory stuff that happens, which is just a bonus because in the end, all the characters are great. Like I haven't even talked about like Invincible, like the main character you follow is played by Stephen Young, the guy who played Glenn in the Walking Dead show. He's great in it. The voice cast is stellar in general. Like J.K. Simmons does Omni Man. So if you haven't checked it out, obviously you just got spoiled on a lot of it. So I did warn for it. But either way, the main point for me is that like I had no expectations going into the show. Didn't really care for like the first half of the first episode, but then by the end of it, it's really good. Like it's really good. And all like the violence of it is like it's not just violence for the sake of violence. It all kind of tells a story. Like in the end, for instance, like when you learn all that stuff about Omni Man, like I just kind of did an overview of, you learn that by Omni Man explaining it to Invincible, who is his son. But Invincible, he was raised as a human. Like he knew that his dad was Omni Man, and he'd come into these powers and everything. But he was raised as a human. He didn't know anything about this Viltrumite stuff at all. So like Omni Man kind of drops this bomb on him that like, we're here so we can take over the planet. Like that's it. So obviously, Invincible being raised as a human, he's not for that. So it's like he goes to fight his dad, and he gets his fucking ass beat. He's all bloody, he's all cut up and stuff, and like the violence lends itself to the narrative. It's just like a cool thing that happens, but it's always used in a way that it gives it more meaning. You know what I mean? Like when someone, um, like if someone's injured, they're injured. It goes on to like the next episode or something. It's not just like in most shows if someone got a black eye, it would be gone in the next scene or anything. Like, no, if someone gets injured in it, then like they remain injured. Like it's part of telling the story in a lot of ways. I don't know. It's really cool. John, you haven't. You said that you haven't actually had to finish the show, and Rick hasn't really seen the show. So, what are your kind of overall thoughts on the series so far? I think you just haven't seen the last two episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I love the show. I think the show's doing an excellent job. So far, again, it's been a little while since I read the comics. The comics came out. The first issues of the comics came out before the Walking Dead comics came out, I believe. I think I have that timeline right. So I mean, it's been a while that this comic series has been out, and it's actually been over for a while now too. Um, but I actually just while you were talking there, because you were asking stuff, I wanted to get some clarification on. I went over and grabbed my Invincible compendium. Um, for the first it's like the first 50 issues or whatever.
Mhm.
But everything that happens in this first season happens within the first 12 issues of the comic series. So, if you equate the comic series to the first 12 issues to a year, which is comics are released monthly, so that works out about right. It's like the first season covers about the first year of the comics. So, that gives you an idea. And then the series ran for, I believe, maybe about 10 years or so in the comics. So that gives you an idea just of how early and stuff all this stuff was played out. So it was pretty early in the run of the comics where they gave you all the backstory on his dad and the Viltrumites and what was going on, the Guardians and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, it's playing pretty true to the way I remember the comic from everything that you told me that happened. Um, and like you said, the violence I mean, it's there because I mean, there's a certain part of it that's like it's over the top violence and stuff too. But it's also like kind of realistic in a way. Like if you have somebody that's the power level of Superman punches somebody in the chest, that's going to be a very vicious and visceral reaction that happens there. So, I don't think the violence is it's warranted for the power levels that you're talking about with these characters.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed the series. I might sound anytime somebody says they really enjoy something, but then they haven't finished it, and it's a kind of the question becomes, well, if you're so into it, why haven't you finished it? Honestly, it's just time right now. I'm having time watching anything or keeping up with anything I like. It took me a week and a half to watch Mortal Kombat, and I was really excited about that. So it's just finding the time for all this great stuff that's coming out right now. And Invincible, I think, took a backseat to Falcon and Winter Soldier, partly because I know the story of Invincible. So like as much as I'm enjoying it, I love it. It's already something I kind of know to an extent. It's just how they're making the adaptation to the screen, and they're doing a great job with it. I'm glad to hear that somebody like you that had no prior knowledge of it is really enjoying it and liking it, because it was one of the most uh, unique concepts when it came out in the comics. Like you get the story, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go, another teen finding out that he's got superpowers and his dad's a Superman. Like, oh, okay, what if Superman had a son? This will be a fun story in the comics. And then you get that turn with his dad being not a good guy, and it's just great. It's like, oh wow, that's the hook. That's what draws you in and makes it go from just a good comic to, and oh my god, this is like a really unique, cool thing that they're doing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It kind of flips the script. 'Cause it
yeah,
kinda and that's what, like I said, that, like, when I first started watching it, it was just kinda like, "Okay, this is like,
yeah.
there's your Justice League people, this kid's gonna get powers eventually, yeah, we get it. Cool." But then at the end, at the end of the first episode, you get Omni-Man comes in and kills that Justice League crew of people, and you have
Yeah.
no idea why. So, and that's the first kinda, like, thing that flips the script on you, it makes you like it's a level of intrigue to it. It's definitely it's good. It's really good. I had like you said, and like I said, I had no expectations going into the show. When I first came on, I wasn't really hooked on it till like the end, until that scene happens, because then there's like a level of intrigue to it. And that's why I said it's like a really it's a fresh take on a kind of I don't know, not really. It's just a story that's kind of run its course and could be it's been done a million times, having your Superman kind of character and your Justice League kind of characters and all that. And but then 'cause there's like a lot of shades of gray with it, because like Omni-Man's not a bad guy. Like he's not like an evil person. He's kind of like Thanos in a lot of ways. Like he's just he had a mission, and he knows he could kill everybody there, and his goal is to conquer the planet. Like he's not necessarily a dick. Like he's a really nice, normal dude, like for the most part, but he's staying true to his beliefs, and like he's there to take over the planet. Like that's what he's there for. Like,
Yeah, from his point of view, he doesn't view it as evil.
yeah, it's like it is evil, but he's not like it's literally just pretty much like Thanos. Like he wasn't like Thanos is a bad guy, but like his whole thing with the snap wasn't done out of like I want to kill everybody just so I can enjoy it like the Joker. Like, like the Joker's more of a true like chaotic kind of evil person who does things for his own personal pleasure more so than anything and to fuck with Batman. But like he has a goal. Thanos had a goal, like and it's not like an evil goal. It's the actions he needs to take to achieve his goal are evil. They can be viewed as evil, but it's a little bit more gray because like you can see where he's coming from. Like you know what I mean? That's kind of like the best villains are out there. Like if you can empathize with them, then they're more interesting. But like you can thoroughly see where like Omni Man's coming from, and he's not like doing it out of spite or anger or anything like that. It's just like this is the job essentially, like, so that's what made it kind of cool. So Rick, you haven't seen it here, so I'm going to play this quick clip. Hopefully we don't get
A lot of blood from the
taken
pictures I've
off this
seen.
one. Well, this scene here I thought was one of the coolest scenes that happened in the final episode here, because it's after Omni-Man tells him all the stuff that I said, that he's from Viltrum and he's here to take over the planet. He told his son all that, and his son's like, well, that's not cool. Like, I'm not going to support that. And he tries to fight him.
Right.
So he's trying to convince him, like, that everything that he's fighting for, like, doesn't matter. Like, he's going to outlive all of humanity. Like, they live for thousands of years. So he's just like, what are you going to do in 500 years? All these people that you're wanting to save right now, you're going to outlive them, like that thing. And then one of the things he does is he takes him down to the subway station here and like just holds him out in front of it and just has him plow through the entire subway thing, and just like everybody's just getting cut to shreds. Like
Jesus.
it's like it's definitely graphic for the sake of being graphic. Like
Why are his eyes red?
But well, his eyes are red because just before that,
He just chiefed or something?
no,
Just checking.
he's super spleeved. Like,
Yeah.
no, a guy named Immortal, who was kind of like the Superman in the Guardians of the Globe. He came in and tried to stop Omni-Man. Like he killed him in the beginning, but then his name's Immortal for a reason. Like he can come back to life essentially if the tools are presented for himself. But either way, he came back to life and he was fighting him, and he tried gouging his eyes out.
Oh.
So and that like just happened. So his eyes are red from that, which goes to like what I was saying. When you're injured in the show, like you remain injured. Like it's like a small detail they could have not done.
Yeah.
But like no, his eyes got gouged out by someone with superhero strength. Like super strength. So his eyes are red.
Yeah.
And they remain red.
And that makes sense.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah. Like this scene in particular, it's like, yeah, it's gory for the sake of being gory in a lot of ways, but he's like, there's a point to it. Like there's narrative purpose to it. So it's like cool. Like, I mean, it's kind of like Mortal Kombat in a sense. Like some of the gore's there just for flair, but it's also kind of part of the story. Like the fatalities and all that stuff. Like that's what the story is. And with this, it's kind of like John said, if you get punched in the face by Superman, your head's going to explode.
Right.
And that's what happens in the show. Like if Omni-Man punches you in the face, he goes through you. Like plain and simple. Like he will literally punch right through you. So it's really cool. So Rick, you're the one here who hasn't seen anything. You haven't watched the show yet. Does anything that we've just talked about, or a little like review here of it, or breakdown of it, has it inspired you to give the show a chance? Are you interested?
Yeah, I might start it tonight actually. I've got Amazon Prime, so why not? But the animation style reminds me a lot of like the classic like comic books shows, like Batman the animated series, that sort of stuff. But it looks good. I mean, the cast sounds good. I like the violence, honestly, as horrible as that sounds.
No, yeah, that's great.
I mean, like that picture you had of Invincible where his face was all beat up and cut up, like that's brutal looking.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. And that's where like his dad did that to him.
That's what I'm saying. That's child abuse. Like,
well, yeah, during that scene though, too, like you saw, like when I was kind of skimming through it, like he starts to get kind of like sad looking, like on man, and he ends up flying away. Like he ends up having like a flashback here as he's pummeling his son. For pretty much just about him. Like the first memory he has of actually like kind of enjoying humanity, because this scene starts out with like he's standing on like the kid's playing a baseball game, he's whatever, and it's like his first baseball game, but like he's standing over there with his arms crossed off to the side, and then like his wife comes up and he's just like, this is such a waste of time. Like I could be, how much like stuff I could be doing right now, like all the people I could be saving, like I have so many better things to do, kind of thing. But
Right.
then like his wife comes over and just like explains like that this is what humanity is, like this is your son, and like we made him, and like blah 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 blah, mushy gushy shit. But he remembered this, and it got to him, so like he ended up fucking flying away, like so Invincible is alive and stuff. So
Yeah, he looks pretty upset.
yeah, like he gets pretty upset, but then he just leaves, and like we don't know where he went. It kind of like sets up season 2, like the end of the series sets up season 2 and stuff. And I don't know, I'm excited to see. They renewed it for season 2 and 3. So, like I said, I didn't. It's not that I had no interest in it, but like I didn't know what it was going into it.
Right.
So I was pleasantly surprised by how they kind of flipped the script on the whole genre, and they have all these kind of relatable characters with people that you kind of know, like you've seen before. Like I said, you had your Justice League there, you had your your classic characters that were there, but it's totally different. Like it's totally unique in its own right. So,
Right.
and all the two, we didn't really talk about it, but like all like the other characters, so like there was like this teen group. It was called Teen Team, which is pretty much like Teen Titans. There were all these like younger heroes, and they become once Omni-Man killed all the other like the Justice League, the Guardians of the Globe. These other heroes became the new Guardians of the Globe, but they're primarily were made up of this Teen Team thing. And
Yeah.
even those characters are cool. Like and like what was nice about those characters is they weren't your classic ripoffs of other characters. Like Robot is like probably like the coolest character of that whole group, and you find out that he's not just like a robot at all. Like he's like this 30-year-old genius who's in like this weird decrepit like body, and like it's weird. Like it's weird. If you haven't seen it, I think I've spoiled enough of it, so you can just go and watch it. But Zachary Quinto does the voice of Robot. Like the voice cast is freaking stacked, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really good. But like I like that like they have all these more unique heroes become like the centerpiece, because the kind of Justice League ripoff characters were all killed. So it was kind of cool. Like,
Right.
so I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add about it, John? Any recommendations you would have for the show at all? I pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, you covered a lot of it. If you like the show, and obviously if you can't wait for the next few seasons, the comics are out there, and I have a feeling. I mean, there have been little diversions here or there that I've noted. It's actually I'd like to go back and read some of the comics again and try and see if I notice some more diversions. But the first thing, obviously, I need to do is finish the show. So
Right. Yeah. In the end, I think it's great. It got me hooked in there. I think the last 2 episodes are probably my favorite again. So it's good. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Hopefully, little reviews here have swayed you to it. I mean, it looks like Rick's going to actually check it out now. So we'll see with
may.
that. But we're going to wrap things up here now, guys.